So what happens, eagles have been shown to be big major predators on common murres. But it's not, the story's a little more complex because the eagles will fly out and eventually the common murres will flush, and that's when the eagle will try and take them. Common murres will go into the water. Of course, they can dive and end up half a mile away, so that's their safety zone. But what have they left behind? A nest full of eggs. Next guy to come in is your glaucous wing western gull hybrid or whatever it is, and they got eggs for breakfast, right? And they've shown that in areas where the eagles are coming over and the gulls are there, they're actually decreasing recruitment of these common murres that are not in a good situation to start with. So it kind of is a little bit of a relationship. I call it a mutualistic relationship. Neither of them depend on each other, but they have definitely worked this thing out. So I started looking, and there's actually another story from the early 1980s on double-crested cormorants, where this was happening, where eagles were flushing the double-crested cormorants up on Mondarty Island, not too far from here. And then who was coming in? Northwestern crows were coming in and eating the eggs as well. And the crows also are involved in eating some of the eggs and some of the common murre nesting sites, but it's the gulls that are doing more of it. And while we're on the double-crested cormorant, how many of you guys have seen these double-crested cormorant nests? Yeah, pretty awesome. They're huge structures. In many parts of the world, they don't have these. They make them, but they get trashed every year because of the rain and the wind. And so we're kind of in this rain shadow area in the San Juans, and we get them, and they can get up to 2 meters high. And so one of the cool things I think about them is that some people also studying up on Mondarty Island, where they have all kinds of little blinds that you crawl into, and people spend hours up there watching sparrows and cormorants and things like that. What they showed is that if you can get one of these old nests, you're going to have a better success. If you're nesting out on the outside out here, you have a decreased chance of raising your young and fledging them. But it's not just the nest. If you have a nest, if you have one of these old nests and you have one that's on the inside, you're even better off. And if you have one that's on the inside and taller, you're better off. So it's kind of like, I liken it to the reverse penthouse suite syndrome. In the United States, if you're really wealthy and you're doing great, you buy yourself a penthouse and show everybody how great off you are, right? If you're one of these guys, you fight for the best territory, you get the penthouse, and then you're better off. So it's a little bit of a reversal type of a thing. So this is probably, I think, one of the most beautiful ducks in the area. And David Cowell and I were kayaking on North Beach last weekend, and dozens of these Harlequin ducks that were out there. And it just looks like somebody painted them. And they're pretty cool. The Harlequin duck, we've learned they'll winter here, and they'll pair bond here. So they'll meet their special other, and then they'll migrate together, and they'll nest on fast-moving streams in places like the Cascades. And then they'll raise the young, and a lot of times the males will come back first, the women will finish doing all the work, and the guys will come back here in early or late summer, and then the females will come back, and they'll a lot of times reestablish the same pair bond. And some people were doing some genetics work. They're saying, well, if you have a duck that lives off of North Beach of Orcas and finds its mate, goes to the Cascades, comes back here, then there should be a lot of diversity in genetics for Harlequin ducks around the whole Salish Sea area. They didn't find any. And they said, this is really weird. What's going on? Because, there's a lot of site fidelity. They're going back to the same wintering site. They're going back to the same summering site. What's happening? Well, this is what's happening. Herring. The young animals will a lot of times make their first pair bond when they've moved off to a big herring spawn. They're not necessarily eating the herring like the common murres would be doing. They're eating the spawn, which is nutritionally rich, gets them real fat before the breeding season, and then increases their success at breeding. So it's kind of like a spring break, right? The young guys go, they meet some people, they fall in love, and that's story over. And then just one more bird, just to kind of show you guys that just like ones that you don't normally think of. Anybody ever seen these guys, snowy owls? Awesome. And this year, anybody ever been up to Boundary Bay to see them? It's a great time. There's still some up there. And I'm not sure I understand why, but there are certain times when snowy owls will move down into the Salish Sea area and they become major predators. They're daytime predators, so you can go and watch them. And they're just hammering sea ducks up there in Boundary Bay and Fraser River Delta and areas like that. So we always have to think big. It's not just the ones we normally think about. So let's go over to salmon. So this is a great picture of salmon. And this area is really well known for salmon. And about 10 years ago, the World Wildlife Fund for Nature declared this area, the Salish Sea area, one of the major ecosystems for restoration and recovery around the world. And they had 3 different things that they pointed out. One of them was our very, very highly productive mid to low level temperate forests. Another one was the high species uniqueness. So we have a lot of species here that are genetically unique, different from species on the outer coast. And the third one was that we are the most southern latitude that has all 5 species of salmon in the area. And not only that, we also have bull trout that are salmonas that come down the rivers, feed, and go back up. We have sea-run cutthroat trout, and then we have rainbow trout or steelhead that come out into the ocean. So it's a cool thing, but salmon are not as cool as some of the other fish. So we're going to go from there. Okay, so dogfish shark. So this is the Latin name squalus. It means some kind of a fish. And acanthias means some kind of a sharp, pointy thing, right? They have a spiny dogfish. So they have a spine on their dorsal fin that'll poke you, right? So they're a little bit cool. They got kind of cool teeth. They're a shark. But one of the things I think is really cool, how did they get their name dogfish? Not from the Latin name, right? That's their common name. From fishermen. Because early, very, very early on, hundreds of years ago, fishermen would say, this is the fish that schools in packs and chases fish down like packs of dogs. And that's how it got its name. And I got a call from some people on North Beach a little while ago, probably 2 years ago, and they said, hey, last night we were up playing some music pretty late, around 2 in the morning, we heard some splashing, went down to the beach, and it was dogfish as far as we could see. And I said, you are kidding me. Did you get a good picture? And they said, no, we didn't get a good picture. But I started investigating, and these dogfish will actually school up. So dogfish can live to be 100 years old, which is pretty old. And we have a lot of long-lived fish. And for ichthyologists, long-lived in the fish world means over 30 years. And what happens is in the inland waters, we probably get more schools of large females that pack up together. And on the offshore waters, we get more schools of young single-sex animals. And there probably really aren't big schools of males that come up in the area. So pretty cool fish, 100 years old. There's another one. We have 26 different species of rockfish in the area, right? And this one, yellow eye, can live to be 118 years old. So it's pretty cool. They also do some good things. Some of the ones that are real demersal where they'll stick to a rock. We know that you can take that fish, you can capture it, you can bring it up slowly because they have a swim bladder, right? So you bring it up slowly, tag it, take it 2 or 3 miles away in your boat and drop it off. In 2 days, it's going to be right back on that same rock where it's been for 118 years or something like that. But this is really what I think is the coolest fish here. We'll go on to the next one, Joe. So this is thanks to the Victoria High School. Are they just waiting to make a movie about that thing or what? Look at that crescent gunnel on the side. It's like, are you really calling yourself a fish? A spiny lumpsucker. Pretty cool. And what this is, they have a suction on the bottom of them. And what that suction is actually modified pelvic fins that allow them to adhere on. And they can't swim for crap, so they really need that. And so if they're living in some eelgrass bed or some high current area, they just got to kind of suck down and then wait for a little bit of a slack and then go find some food. Pretty cool. Okay, we'll move on to the invertebrates. We don't have a ton of time, so I won't do all 3,000 or so that we have. But we'll start off with octopus. Octopus are really cool. Octopus are poisonous. A lot of people don't really know about that. And these little guys, how many of you guys were at the Indian Island thing earlier tonight? Awesome. So you guys know what this guy is, right? This is a red octopus. And we can find red octopus intertidally all the way down to 1,000 feet deep. And octopus have these cool little cells that have chromatophores in them, and they're able to squeeze them down, so they're really, really able to hide themselves. So if you ever really get bored, can't sleep one night, Google octopus hiding. And there's all kinds of amazing videos out there of these animals and their ability to hide. But really the area is really known for this next creature, which is the giant Pacific octopus. And the giant Pacific octopus is giant, but it's not 600 pounds. You'll see things on the internet, and it's kind of a case of copying. I've never seen any scientific documentation for these guys being over 150 pounds, and usually not even that big. But still, 150 pounds, that's the world's largest invertebrate. Not just the world's largest octopus, but the world's largest invertebrate. Pretty darn cool. I'm going to show you just a movie here. This is right off of Seattle. Okay, so if you think you have to come to the San Juans, and what this is a female octopus that's brooding her eggs. So octopus are, even though they're really smart, really intelligent, they're not that long-lived. Maybe only live 4 or 5 years. Males will mate multiple times, but females will mate once. Then they'll make a den, and they'll spend 5 to 7 months taking care. You see the siphon working over top of those eggs, taking care of those eggs. They're guarding the eggs, blowing air over top of them, keeping them oxygenated. It's pretty amazing. And then at the end, they die. So it's kind of one last act of love for these guys as they go on. We'll go to the next one. So my question to you guys tonight is, are they dangerous for scuba divers? How many of you guys are asleep? No, no, but they are. I said no, but they are. And I got a little paper tonight from Roland Anderson here. And I just want to read you, this is a paper that has 4 different documented cases. And just bear with me, I'm going to read you one case. Okay, this next attack occurred on Salish Inlet on Vancouver Island, BC. The diver was the scientist working for a crew filming octopuses. The scientist was very experienced at handling and being around octopuses. He had enticed an octopus to leave its den and the film crew went off with it. As the diver, now alone, gathered his equipment, a second octopus came out of an unseen den. After looking at the diver for a moment, the octopus crawled quickly to the diver's chest, and while remaining firmly anchored to the rocks below with several arms, it seized his upper arms, chest, and head. The octopus got 3 suckers onto the diver's bare forehead and wouldn't let go. Pressure from the suckers created bruises that lasted for about a week. During the roughly 3-minute struggle, the diver fought to keep his regulator in his mouth by biting down hard on the mouthpiece and using both hands to cover it. The diver eventually outlasted the octopus, but in the struggle lost his mask, had his hood pulled partially off, and his dry suit flooded. As might be expected, he also used a significant amount of breathing gas. The octopus finally gave up on this test of strength and let go. The diver felt that if he had lost his regulator, had been low on air, he would have undoubtedly died. The octopus was just too strong for him to do anything but hang on to his regulator and brace himself from being pulled off to the den. So this one goes to Trey, who's the only person who pass that back, the only person who got that right. So they're not the giant squid of the undersea world that are attacking people, but it is something that we do have to be careful with when we go along. Let's scoot into the invertebrates. So I like these guys, anemones. These are giant plumose anemones. World's largest anemone can be about half of a meter long. And the anemones are basically they're stuck down with a disc. They have a body, they have an oral disc, and then around it they have these tentacles, right? And these tentacles have these pneumatocysts inside of them, which are poison-laden things. There's a trigger, so when something touches it off, sticks in it, and shoots the poison out. It's pretty cool. So, but like, what if a cobra could shoot its fangs out? It would be a different world out there. But it doesn't mean that they can't, just because they're poisonous, that they can't be good mothers. So this is a brooding anemone that you see in eelgrass beds all around here.